is the Simpit. I'm your host, Shaun Cole, but the real star of today's show is the Cammus Racing Esports Simulator Base, aka the DDWB21. This is a 15 Newton meter direct drive servo motor wheelbase that comes in at a very reasonable $899. Now that's an MSRP price. I have seen them as low as $499 for the base only, so it is one of the least expensive direct drive wheelbases, and it's delivering 15 Newton meters, which is mid to high range power. That is a lot of servo power for that kind of money. Cammus, if you've never heard of them, they're another Chinese manufacturer who have entered the sim racing market, but Cammus is not new to the electronics industry. In fact, they've been around for quite some time, and they have a background in not only electric supercars, go-karts, and a handful of other electronic components for the automotive industry. And that supercar, the Titan, you can see, running on electric motors, they are probably pretty knowledgeable when it comes to electric models, and maybe the perfect company to deliver us a direct drive steering wheel base. In addition to this wheelbase and wheel rim that we are testing, Cammus does make a few other sim racing products as well, like a full sim racing chassis, a pedal set, a shifter, and a handbrake. The version that Cammus sent us for testing is actually their full wheelbase kit, in that it comes with a wheelbase and a wheel rim, and it goes by the name Cammus Esports Sim Racing Simulator Base and Steering Wheel 15 Newton meter servo motor. That means the wheelbase itself, the NRG style quick release, the wired wireless wheel rim, and the wheel rim and button box itself, all included for that price. Now that full kit actually lists for $999, but right now they're actually on sale for only an amazing $698. And I know this sounds a little infomercially out, but I'm kind of blown away at this entire package for $698. But wait! There's more. They're actually doing a special promotion right now in conjunction with this video, and that is an additional 5% off their already on sale prices if you use the promo code SIMPIT5. And as I mentioned at the beginning, they do sell the base on its own for that $899 price, which again is currently on sale for only $499. But that model comes with just the wheelbase on its own and the wheel adapter, no quick release, no wheel box or anything like that. But if you think about it, if you back out the pricing, that means you're really only spending about $200 for the quick release, the button box, and the wheel rim when buying it as a full kit, which is amazingly cheap for that wheel rim. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at the Cammus DDWB21 wheelbase and talk about some of its features while we take that close-up look. Starting off with the base. The DDWB base is a large, semi-square shaped base of black anodized aluminum that has a tapered top and a series of grooves running along it to give it a cooling fin type of look. Along the top, on both sides, is a bold white Cammus logo, and if you look carefully among those grooves, you will find that the center side grooves are built like profile or T-slot tubing that can be used for side mounting. The back side of the base has another Cammus logo as well, and the serial number sticker and a big cooling fan vent. Also on the back is the 6-prong power cord, the printer-style USB plug to the computer, along with the plug-in points for additional Cammus hardware like pedals, shifters, or handbrake. Another feature of the Cammus wheelbase is that it does have phone application control for those who prefer to use the phone to change their settings over the in-Windows software control of the wheel. All fairly standard and normal up to here. However, it's when we look at the front of the Cammus wheelbase that things are a little bit unique or different than most wheelbases out there. You can see they've got a series of additional buttons, dials, and switches right there on the front of the base. These are the kind of things that people pay extra for with dash panels that they'll add to their wheelbases. So something right out of the box, stock, and really nice on the Cammus base. This includes 5 extra buttons, 2 dials, and 2 up and down toggle switches, as well as a lit up power button. There is also an engraved Cammus logo at the top front and then the center shaft. The center shaft is also larger and made of black anodized aluminum along with a small Cammus logo in white. At the end of the shaft is the universal adapter along with the pre-installed wheel side of the NRG style quick release. The center of that shaft has the Target style 4 connection points for the wired wireless wheel connection, and meanwhile the bottom of the base is very plain with a not completely but almost flat bottom and the 4 mounting holes. Before we move on to the wheel rim, let's go ahead and talk about some of the overall measurements of the Cammus base. And I don't have an exact weight, it is an extremely heavy wheelbase. Its overall measurements are about 226 millimeters or 9 1/4 inches long by 195 millimeters or 7 3/4 inches wide by 140 millimeters or 5 1/2 inches tall. The center shaft then extends forward of the base by another 102 millimeters or 4 inches towards the driver. In addition to being very heavy, it's also one of the largest wheelbases that I've ever tested. In fact, at that 5 1/2 inch height, it might have you pushing up your monitors depending on your rig and your particular application. The bottom is basically pretty flat and plain, and the mounting holes are 92 millimeters or 3 5/8 inches apart left to right, and in the front to back, they are spaced at 95 millimeters or 3 3/4 inches. This is not standard to most rigs, and it will require drilling in most cases to mount this when you're using the bottom mounting holes. Now, if you look at this base and you removed the NRG style quick release from the front, I basically described for you the base on its own, that $4.99 on sale package. In my case, it was the full version and it had the wheel side quick release already installed onto the base, but in order to even look or handle the wheel, we actually did have to do some very, very basic assembly to put the wheel rim and quick release together. The center hub is installed between the wheel rim and the wheel side quick release. All of the pieces are drilled to the automotive standard, allowing you to use any steering wheel. The first step is to plug in the hub wire into the connector on the quick release and make sure that the wire is tucked away and not being pinched. From there, you can align the steering wheel and the center cap and install the 6 bolts that will tighten the whole assembly together. Pretty basic, pretty easy. And with the wheel rim all put together, we can take a closer look at it and some of its parts, talk about some of its features. Starting off at the back, that being that quick release, that NRG style quick release. I keep saying it, these 10 ball bearing spring released quick releases are my favorite in the industry, and I'm seeing them on more and more sim racing world wheels, which is great because they're a great quick release and they really are a very rigid connection. From there, we move on to the central hub. The Cammus hub is thinner than most and has a carbon fiber faceplate with a black aluminum back cover. Its overall thickness is only 0.854 of 1 inch or 22 millimeters thick, and it is that typical shape that is built to reach around a tri-spoke wheel rim. At the top front side of the box is a pair of buttons on the left and right hand side of the wheel, and on the lower portion of the wheel on the left side is an up and down and middle position toggle switch, as well as the black and blue cap 20 position radial dial that also has a push-in function. On the right lower side is an up and down momentary switch and a black and yellow capped radial dial. That is 15 functions on the face of the wheel, but don't forget about the additional 16 functions on the wheelbase front. The back side of the center hub is plain and smooth with exception to the rectangular shaped low profile shifter assemblies. The shifter assemblies are made with magnets to keep them held in position and have a light resistance before release. You can see Cammus doubled up the magnets here, but they are still a little light to the touch. At the end of the paddle arms are carbon fiber paddles that are about 105 millimeters or a hair over 4 inches long, and at over 3 millimeters or an eighth of an inch thick, they are very rigid. At the widest position, the paddles are about 41 millimeters or 1 5/8 inches from the 330 millimeter or 13 inch wheel rim side. They can be moved more inward by 12 millimeters or almost half an inch. The paddles sit back from the back of the wheel rim by 33 millimeters or 1 1/8 inch, and when pulled in or activated, the shifters move 6 millimeters or a quarter of an inch during travel. The wheel rim that was sent with my test unit is an authentic OMP racing wheel. I have confirmed that they do come with automotive grade wheels, but I cannot confirm that all units ship with OMP wheels in all regions. This is a very nice leather wrapped wheel that measures about 30 millimeters or 1 1/8 round or thick. It is a circle shape with a slight hint of a bump for a thumb resting point and another slight bump at the heel of the hand position. Cammus provided a center badge in black aluminum with silver trim and the Cammus logo in the center. The installation of the Cammus DDWB21 wheelbase can be a little bit of a challenge because of its unconventional bolting pattern on the bottom. The easiest solution would be for those with profile rigs who could actually utilize the Cammus side mounts, and then you just put them into the side channels, bolt them to your rig, and everything's done. In my case, it's a little more conventional. I'm using a standard rig. It's the RCP1 chassis, which honestly I've never had to drill the rig prior to this because they have so many holes in the wheel deck and the pedal plate to accommodate standard brands. So I carefully measured and drilled those 4 holes and mounted the wheel down to my rig. As I mentioned earlier, it is a very large wheelbase, so another thing to consider in the installation phase is the fact that you might need to actually push your monitors up or back to accommodate the larger wheelbase. And again, it is very heavy, so it is really intended for a serious rig, something very stout, something very robust, ready to deal with the rig. And in the case of my R-Seat, everything worked out just fine. From there, it's onto the power cord, the USB to the computer, and then turning on the wheelbase. At the Cammus website, it was actually very easy to find all the downloads for the wheelbase, the wheel rim, the instruction manuals, the software suite, everything that I did need. So I want to applaud them on the ease of finding that stuff. And I went ahead and downloaded the manual for both the base and the wheel, and I installed the software. And when I did, it immediately recognized the wheelbase, and we were pretty much ready to go. Now, the software suite for the Cammus DDWB21 wheelbase is pretty simple and easy to use, and the reason for that being is it's a little on the basic side. So those who are accustomed to Logitech, Thrustmaster, even Fanatic software are going to feel very comfortable because it's the same sort of settings for this one, and it is pretty much plug and play and ready to go at that point. And on the main tab right in the middle, you can see the various Cammus products that are plugged into the computer. In my case, the base and the wheel, which are seen separately. And on the right is a list of compatible games, along with the left-hand side with other tabs. The next one being the parameters tab. This is where you will make all of the adjustments to the wheelbase settings. Things that can be adjusted are wheel angle, power, effects ratio, natural damper, natural friction, natural inertia, and idle spring. You can also save, import, and export your settings. The next tab is the test and set tab. Here you can also set your wheel angle as well as set the center calibration. And then finally, there's the update tab. The Cammus software will show you your current software and firmware versions of your hardware, and you can also update any of your devices here as well. So when doing a steering wheel review on the show, I gotta tell you, it really comes down to driving. It really comes to how does the thing handle out on track. How does it perform while racing? That's what we're really here for. So when looking at the Cammus wheelbase and moving on to the racing aspects of it, you probably know, if you're a fan of the show, you probably know the next thing I'm going to talk about. And that being getting in and out of the rig when you're getting ready to race, and that being putting on and taking off the steering wheel, and that all starts with that NRG style quick release. You've heard me say it over and over and over again. This is a fun quick release to operate. It is easy to operate, and it just has such a rigid, solid connection. This one does have a safety button that needs to be pressed to remove the wheel, but from there, we can move on to the wheel rim itself. At your hands is an automotive grade steering wheel. In this case, a genuine OMP wheel rim. The leather of the rim is very soft to the touch, but it has enough texture to prevent it from feeling slippery. It also should be very low on wear and not require you to drive in gloves. It is pretty much perfect for a 13-inch wheel rim. With the Cammus wheel having an automotive bolt pattern, this wheel rim could be changed out for any real rim of just about any shape as long as it clears the button box. The button box portion of the assembly reaches out fairly well, but this is still a bit far to the inside due to the massive 13-inch wheel rim. The buttons themselves are the typical to mini steering wheel style buttons and offer the slightest amount of tactile feedback when pressed. There are only 4 of them, 2 at the top for each thumb, and they do have that semi-gamey type joystick type steering wheel type feel about them. The lower half of the wheel has the toggle switches and the rotary dials. The little switches are cool when they can be mapped properly in-game, but are on the smaller side if you are driving in gloves. The same goes for the rotaries, as they are a little thin. They do have little detents to make each turn of the dial pretty clear even when driving, so they do get the job done. And with the added press-in function, it probably gives me just enough controls on the wheel itself. The shifter paddles are a good size to match this wheel rim, and they are plenty stiff when pulled in. However, I did find the magnets on them to be very light. I like a good amount of resistance on my shifters, and these released very quickly as a result of the light magnets. You can see that Cammus doubled up on the paddle side of the magnets, but it's still a little light for me. But for some, this will be good, as it does result in very fast shifting. The steering wheel portion of the Cammus wheel, which includes the quick release, was all very rigid in terms of flex, but it was also very well attached to the base and felt like a pro-type setup. Not to mention the added advantage of the wired wireless connection. There is no looping wire, and this isn't Bluetooth, it is actually connection through the quick release. Now that pretty much covers everything that you feel in your hands, but when we move over to the base, we can start to talk about the overall strength and the delivery of the force feedback from the Cammus DDWB21 wheelbase. The Cammus wheelbase is a very powerful wheelbase. At 15 Newton meters, it is far more powerful than I need or use when sim racing. So right out of the box, this beast needed to be turned down quite a bit for the best results. I also found the Cammus base to be very smooth, and it was almost impossible to feel any cogging or detents of the wheel ever, even when delicately turned. However, the default software also had a lot more friction and dampening than I would like, and that was another adjustment I made in the early phases of testing to get the most out of the wheel. As I continued to dial in the settings and continued to turn laps on the wheel, it was very easy to get comfortable with the way it drove. The Cammus wheelbase was very comparable in feel to other mid to super high powered DD wheels that I've tested. The wheel is extremely robust from the bottom of the base where it mounts all the way to the ends of the steering wheel. It is the same kind of strength and flex-free environment that you would expect from a real car or a real race car. Another expectation we have of our high-end direct drive wheels is smooth, yet powerful delivery of the force feedback. The Cammus DDWB21 base delivers its force feedback very well. At times of light steering, the wheel can be so light that it free spins like a drift car. And at times of heavy braking and turning for the apex, it delivers a much heavier feel in the wheel, giving you the weight and the friction that the tires are fighting. The transitions from those lighter effects to the strong ones are also smooth and have a very natural feel about them. When changing from game to game or sim to sim, so will the force feedback, as the sims themselves are responsible for what is being sent to the wheel. In iRacing, the feelings are muted, like they are for all other wheels, but they are also very useful and predictable when driving. The smoothness of this wheel allows me to be sensitive to those driving cues and make the necessary adjustments as a driver to get the most out of the car. In sims with heavier force feedback and dramatic force feedback effects, for example, Assetto Corsa Competizione, the force feedback rides a great combination of super strong and, quite honestly, super fun force feedback. Perhaps even overemphasizing what you feel in a real car to make up for what we are missing with G-forces and movement in our sims. This wheel takes those kind of effects and gives you an over-the-top immersive feel from the wheel. Game after game, dialing in the settings in each situation to my desires, I was able to get great results out of the Cammus DDWB21 wheelbase. And there's still one more feature that I think makes the Cammus DDWB21 wheelbase rather unique and one of a kind when it comes to wheelbases in the market, and that being these extra button switches and dials on the front of the base. To me, this is usually wasted space on 9 out of 10 on every wheelbase out there in the market. I just think this is the coolest thing they could have done, was add functionality to the wheelbase itself beyond just delivering the force feedback. And then I think about other people, other wheelbases, people actually pay money for additional dash panels that expand the wheelbase, giving them that same kind of functionality, and it is built in and totally unique. And I can't think of any wheelbases offhand that actually do that, except for maybe like some of the original Thrustmaster bases with 2 buttons down on the bottom of the base. So I think that tells you everything that you really do need to know about the Cammus DDWB21 steering wheel base, 15 Newton meters of power. But just to make it perfectly clear, let's go ahead and break it down with the good, the not so good, and the bottom line. Starting off with the good, and that being, this is an incredible price for a wheelbase. Not just the normal price, but the sale price is outstanding. Wired wireless, no Bluetooth. Base includes extra buttons, dials, and switches. Powerful base, 15 Newton meters. Good force feedback. Very smooth turning, no friction. Very rigid setup, no flex, no wiggles, no noises. NRG style quick release. Phone application control. Bottom or side mount option. No cogging whatsoever. And now on to the not so good. This is a very large, very heavy wheelbase. Poor information on website. Light action paddle shifters. Unique drill pattern. Had to drill rig. Only basic software control. No other wheel rims to choose from. And now on to the bottom line. The Cammus DDWB21 wheelbase and wheel rim is hands down the best deal in sim racing. I mean, I can't even think of a comparable deal, and that's at the stock price. When I look at that discounted sale price of $698, I don't even know how they're doing it. 15 Newton meters of power, NRG style quick release, an authentic wheel rim, a wheel and a wheelbase for that price at that power point is just amazing, and I can't think of anything even close to it on the market right now. It is the best deal in sim racing right now. With that said, the buttons and switches aren't as fancy as some higher end wheel rims, but when I consider this wheel rim only added $200 to the price and it comes with a nice wheel rim itself, it's a pretty good functional setup. Now, normally at this level, I would actually take issue with having only 15 functions on the face of the wheel rim. That is about a minimum level that I need nowadays. But with the added functions on the front of the wheelbase, I think it's extraordinarily cool. And it actually allows me to do something that I love so much, and that is make it easier on the motor memory. Make it easy for me to bank things. Like, obviously, on the wheel, I want things that I need at the ready instantly. And then on the wheelbase, I'm going to have things that I don't need as often, and that way I don't have to think about them being on the wheel rim. It makes it easier to remember where they are, and it makes it less likely for you to erroneously press one of those buttons. You need to do it with intention, and it makes it so realistic. As you think about a real car, even on a high-end car, most of the functions are on the wheel rim, but you still have controls up on the dashboard. Another thing I really do like about this setup in particular compared to a lot of the wheel rims I'm seeing on the market today is the wired wireless connection, as I'm calling it. So this isn't a Bluetooth connection. When the wheel is clamped on with the quick release through these connectors right there, all of the signals of the wheel go directly into the base. That means there is no potential for interference or lag, and it just means it's just one more part that should be less problematic or trouble-free. Now, despite not having other wheel rims to choose from, and I did recommend to Cammus that they consider making something specific to open wheelers, but if I want to use their cool wired wireless connection, then I really do need their wheel hub. So my only option is to switch out this wheel rim. Now, with this automotive pattern, I could use any rim, and I even know some open-wheeled rims that are like the Momo style that you could probably bolt on here as long as it clears the buttons. So as a consumer, you still do have options, but I'd love to see something direct from Cammus. It would only make it that much better. So all in all, this was a very, very good wheel at that price, that power, its smoothness, its rigidity. It checks all of the boxes, and it just does blow me away that they're able to do that. So if you need more information, you can check it out at Cammus.com, where you can see this as well as the other sim racing gear that they make, as well as that Titan electric supercar. Be sure to thumbs up if you like what we did here. Be sure to subscribe to our channel here so you can find out when our next review, our next video comes out. And most of all, thanks for watching. That's going to do it for this one. This is the Simpit. I'm Shaun Cole, and I'll see you on the track.